Welcome. Today we're going to be discussing intellectual departure and some of the more important principles, rules, concepts, theories, and strategies of this technique. So let's talk through the initial strategy of this technique. The initial strategy of this technique is the person's throwing a kick. I want to get away and leave. That's where the name intellectual departure comes from. So let's walk through each of those pieces of that name of the technique. So if you'll notice, this was off of a kick that started out with us and our positioning. We could be in a ready position, which means, using economy of motion principle, I need to do something other than what I did for intellectual departure, because the most efficient thing for me to do is just to drop my hand, and we would do something like a deflecting hammer rather than an intellectual departure. So that means we have to do something like an intellectual departure because our hands are down. So what we want to do is we just want to turn, get ready to leave so that we can get out of here, but we want to do it the most efficient way as possible using the economy of motion principle, and that comes into that term intellectual. Intellectual in this case is an argot, which means the most natural way and quickest way in which you can defend yourself. Now let's go into the second term inside here, which is the departure part. I want to turn, and why? There's a lot of criticism that says in a yellow belt situation you don't want to turn your back to the opponent, but in this case we're purposely doing it. Remember, we do things because we want to or have to. In this case, we want to leave as fast as possible. Why? Potentially because you're a yellow belt, you don't have the skills yet to engage on this opponent, so you want to leave as fast as possible. And the reason why you're turning your back to this opponent is so I can get as fast as I can that direction. Going backwards, shuffling backwards, is nowhere near as fast as turning and leaving. So what you're trying to do is get yourself in the optimal position so that you can get out, the departure part of intellectual departure. So now let's bring in a rule that would easily be picked up here. We do this block and we want to get out, but what's the problem here? The problem here is we are between their weapons, either the hands or the feet or both, or on their center line is another way to think about this. So there's a general rule that says control the height when you're between the hands or on the center line. And the way we do this in this technique is the kick. You go, well, why? If you're going to leave, why would you do that? Because the lever concept. What I want to do is have my levers as well as I can get them, but I want to take theirs away, which is why we want to control that height zone. So I want to run and get out of here as fast as I can, right? So what's the opposite of that? Make sure they can't do it. So when I do this kick, the idea is to get them to bend over to control that height zone so that I can get myself a running head start away from them, okay? So now let's go back to one of the concepts because we want to or we have to. We get into this situation, they do the kick, and we want to get out of there. We did everything really nice. But we turn and we have a wall. We go, I can't leave. Remember, the first consideration is environment. In this case, our back was to the wall. We turn to run, but then we see there's a wall in our way, and we go, we have to now engage this opponent. We no longer have the ability to leave. We have to comply with what we want to do and go back towards this opponent, right? So, because it's not a purposeful thing anymore. We're compelled to go back towards this opponent. So now let's talk through some of the options here. We did this kick, and we did that to control the height zone. There's one or two things that could happen now that I have to go back to him. He could be really close to me. I do this hit, and I take out the leg, and we're done with the technique. Or I do this kick really well because I'm really good at it, and now he leaves. I can no longer just do this turn and hit him. What I now have to do is that it brings in the concept of adding foot maneuver as needed. I have to close that gap or gauging before I can do that low and then high, so I have to reverse the sequence. Okay? So now, let's do this technique, a quick run through both different ways so that you can see how you would do it. Up. Hope this video helps you understand the American Kenpo system a little better. Thank you very much.